Welcome to Art Show. I'm Craig Stover, and today I have with me Sybil Archibald. Hi, Sybil. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Very good. I wanted to start right away by sharing some work of yours, give people a little idea of the kind of work that you do. So these are in no particular order. I went on your website and selected images that I just thought were captivating. Um, can you tell me a little bit about this one in particular?
This is from a series called The Things We Keep. And it was an interesting, it was when I first started doing monotypes. And there was this interesting thing that happened. There's this, that figure is holding uh, like a dark figure, sort of an amorphous dark figure. And all of my work from that period had this figure in it. And it just kept coming up and coming up. And as I processed through the series, the figure started to transform into light and into a light figure. And the early ones like this are kind of uh, for whenever a bird comes up in my work, it's usually the symbol of creativity coming into the world. And in these early works, there's a lot of fear around creativity and embracing that part of myself. And so these, sort of scary talons are coming down, and I'm sort of protecting this frail figure from the enormity of the work of what it is to be an artist, of really bearing yourself and bringing that hidden part of yourself into the light.
The reason I chose this one is I have an affinity for pictures that not only draw me in, but I love it when a work of art, when I leave it, I've got more questions than answers. And
Uh,
this one really does that. Who are these figures? What's the bird? Even the environment that they're in, it's kind of flame-like or kind of smoky. And it just, one answer leads me to two more questions. And I love that about your work. It's I don't want to say open. I just want to say it's inviting, I guess I should say, in that regard. But you don't just do one discipline, right? I was thrilled to see sculptures of yours. Tell me about this.
yeah,
First off, I want to know how big is this?
so it's the exact size, I'm not sure, but it comes, so I'm 5'8" and it comes up to like my nose
Okay, so maybe
somewhere.
about a little under 5 feet.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
And I
Uh,
love the fact that it's got your painting incorporated into it, but the figure is just so it's almost iconic. I really love it. Tell me more about this
Thank
one.
you. Um, so it, St. Francis has, even though I'm not really a religious person, the story of the life of St. Francis has meant a lot to me. The idea of, um, giving yourself over completely to your task and abandoning everything to embrace the role that you've been given in life. And um, there is this story about him that just has helped me so much in so many instances in my life, where he comes to this gate late at night and it's winter and there's ice like forming on his clothing, and he's got sores on his feet, and he knocks on the gate and he asks to get in, and they say no, no, you can't get in. And he the his I guess his adepts, his people who are traveling with him, say, ask him later, what is perfect joy? And he refers back to this and he says, perfect joy be if they let you in? No, that wouldn't be perfect joy. If they let you in and give you, hot chocolate and feed you and cater to your every needs, would that be perfect joy? And he says, no. And they say, so what would perfect joy be? And he said, perfect joy would be if I got to the gate and they denied me access and I accepted it and was perfectly happy and was at one with the situation, and it did not upset me in any way. And I think of that always like, all these things that happen to us in our lives, all these challenging, difficult things, and how do you find a road where it doesn't knock you? And in this piece in particular, it's hard to maybe see on this photo, but he has the stigmatas, are these wounds that um, were given to Christ, where he was nailed to the cross. But certain holy figures in history have gotten them. St. Francis has them, and I planted aloe growing out of these wounds because it is through our wounds that we are really healed. And this sculpture actually fell on the ground and smashed into a million pieces. And when that happened, we were moving, and this was, a very dear piece to me. And at that time, I didn't get upset at all because all of a sudden I realized that that is part of this piece. And so
Right.
I built it back together. And you can't see it in this, but there are cracks all through his face where he was broken and he was put back together. And he is in a state of acceptance about all of the wounds that
Boy,
he had acquired in his life.
I'm thrilled that you told me that story because it changes everything for me. I really enjoy hearing it. Now I really want to see it in person.
Anytime, come. My studio's always
There
open.
you go. So this piece it features prominently on your website, and I really enjoy this piece because it's hard to define what it is. Is it an installation? Is it a painting? It's yes to all of it. But what really got me is your use of the negative shapes in all of this, and I just I really this is a piece I really could see myself sitting in front of and staring at for a long time. What is this piece?
First of all, I love negative shapes. I mean, I've just always been obsessed with negative spaces. But what is this? That's almost an impossible question to answer. I mean, it's just something.
Well, you don't
Uh,
have to give up all your mysteries. You can definitely just keep it as is.
no, but what the a lot of my work is about how creativity enters into the world, how it transforms the artist, the human body, the world around us, and then passes through and goes on its way. And so to do more work. And so there are ladders, um, there is energy coming down. There's also energy going up because I always feel like it goes both ways. If we do our work in the world and let the energy in, we're also feeding the energy back up. We're
Yeah.
uh,
This
and
piece
sorry, go
this
ahead.
this piece really allows with the viewer as a painter, you're always being able to command how people look at a picture. Their eye goes into it and goes out of it, goes up and down. But I love the fact that this piece even has ways for you to start the picture from the floor up, from the ground up. And I love that. And it is due to negative shapes and negative spacing in it. It's a very successful piece in that regard.
Thank you.
Speaking of successful pieces, this one I also wanted to show. Now we're going around in different ages here as well. So this piece is a little bit older.
Yeah, this is much older. Um, so we haven't really discussed much of my story, but I was like my personal story, but I
Mhm.
have a very rare disease called scleroderma, and I've gone through periods where I've been extremely ill, um, and periods where I've been really healthy. But this was done um, when I was coming out of a period where I was very ill, and I was sort of rediscovering my work. I when my I have a son, and when he was young and being ill, it was hard for me to work. So these are some of the first pieces I did after that period, and you can see here, the sort of outside of an icon there is creating this sacred space. which I believe whenever you create, you're in a sacred space. And then, the light starting to come through. I call this one gestation because there, everything in the world is a cycle. So when you go through a kind of death in your life, symbolically, which I had gone through, um, a period where I had to give up a lot, there's always this inner light in there that's gestating. And sometimes you aren't aware of it and you don't know what's going on and you feel like everything's lost, but it's not lost.
Hmm.
It's never lost. There's always something gestating inside. And if you can remember that the earth turns and the sun rises, and part of the reason for that is to demonstrate for us that it's always coming again. There's always a time. And so this is kind of depicting the inner light in that moment where it feels like there's nothing there.
Yeah. I saw obviously the inner light, not just of the lantern, but of the light source within the head. But I'll tell you what really got me about this picture. The reason I chose it is I love the device that you did at the bottom, where on the left side, it's just sort of it almost that red kind of looks like almost like a curtain that's kind of pulled back. But on the right side, you definitely have it as, even though it's a flat shape, you're implying that it's an actual thing because of the way that the skeleton goes above it, right? So you had a different on either side to tell two different stories, and I like that. That's that's smart painting. I really enjoy that particular picture. And I think I've got, oh yeah, one left. This is a monotype as well, correct?
Yeah, this is the only monotype you've shown so far.
Yeah,
Oh no, sorry, the first one was a
the first one
monotype.
was. Hmm.
Um,
But this is very different, though.
yeah, so there was I've done several series of monotypes. So before this series, there is the monotype of the day, where I did one monotype every day for 900 days. And that series was about um, bringing me back to life after being very sick. And because I never missed a day in the 900 days. And then after that happened, my father passed away. And I made a large sculpture. And that sculpture, I stuffed it with letters of gratitude to him, thanking him for everything he had done for me. And I really thought about, you know, how can I grieve? What can I do? So I took not all, he was a huge traveler. So I took many of his travel photos and I remade them as monotypes. So it was a way of honoring him, but also connecting more deeply with him. And in this one, I feel like my work sort of exists on the edge between the physical and the spiritual world. So whenever I'm looking at a physical place, like this happens to be out his front door on Tampa Bay,
Hmm.
um, and I'm always looking to kind of get a little glimpse at what's behind the veil of the physical world. So these birds and the hand are alluding to that other place that.
So I got to ask this, and I'm probably off on this, but the hand itself looks very, looks like the hand of Buddha. Am I just projecting there, or is it just because
No,
it's so
no,
stylized?
it's it's not specifically the hand of Buddha, but it is an eternal divine hand. And so I do I do often use a very stylized hand for two reasons, because of what I just said, but also because my hands are very gnarled. They don't open at all. They're like fists.
Mhm.
But when I work in my studio, I don't even notice it. I have
Mhm. Mhm.
no feel no limitation. So this is also a representation of how I feel. Oh my God, a very old one. How did you even find that one? Is that on my website?
Yeah, but this one works. So my first question is this just a dry line, or is there aqua tint there for the blacks?
Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. I did this piece I did maybe when I was a teenager. Um, I I mean I love aqua tint, so I would guess there's aqua tint. I think yeah, I think at least the black in the
Okay.
background is an aqua tint. Wow, that's a blast from the past.
But it's such a great image. I mean, it really is. It looks a little folk artish to me, but it's also got this magnificent border with those, the undulating patterns. And then the
Well,
storyline itself. I mean, this figure being encapsulated and second set of wings, and there's so much going on. I love pictures that I can't get right away. I will need to stare at this one for quite some time. But
well, I
let's
can.
I would like to get to my regular questions for you, if you
Oh,
don't
sure.
mind. Um, can you remember a first time that when you were younger that you were exposed to art? And I'm talking about something that just sort of bowled you over, like that really almost lit your fire.
Um, well, I can't. I mean, I was always an artist. The first time that well, when I was 10, we moved to Los Angeles and we lived about 2 blocks from the museum, the Los Angeles Museum of Art. And at that time, it was very cheap. So I would go there almost every day and I would just be there. And there were a couple of paintings there that I don't know who they were by. I've looked for them. They no longer are hanging. That really, I would say they were sort of in a German expressionist style.
Hmm.
But also, I was really uh, responded to Picasso as a kid.
Hmm.
Um, there was a Max Beckmann exhibit there when I must have seen that one like 20 times. I mean, I love that so much.
It's so telling when artists talk about their early exposures, because now I can see little pieces of Beckman or little pieces of Picasso and some of the shapes and lines that you do. So let's go forward a little bit more, in terms of your especially I'm interested in your printmaking process because it is such a large part of your work. Who taught you printmaking?
Well, what I went to, so I really wanted to go to art school, but my family would not allow me to go to art school. They said, go to do something, useful. So I went to NYU and I got a degree in medieval spirituality, which was extremely useful,
Right.
right?
And that was
So
acceptable to them?
at that point, they couldn't do anything.
Okay.
But I did take a couple classes. So I took one etching class there, and then I really didn't. I think I took a summer class once when I was in Los Angeles for etching, and then I really wasn't able to do etching again because I didn't have a studio. Um, and later in life, I did go someplace to try and do etching, but the fumes turned out to be too much for me
Mm.
because my lungs are sensitive. And one day, I went to a local gallery to drop something off, and people were sitting there doing a monotype class. And so I watched what they were doing, and I was, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So I drove from that class to the art supply store, got everything I needed to do it, and just have been doing it ever since.
That is fantastic. Do you have a press? Do you ever use?
I actually recently got a press, but I haven't started using it yet. I
Okay.
I use a jelly plate, which
Yeah.
is spongy, so I don't need the
Right.
press.
Yeah. Well, once you start getting familiar with that press, I want to come back and see some work to see
Sure.
what you
Yeah.
create out of this. So in your process, um, and this I know is probably different for the paintings as opposed to the monoprints that you do. Do you sketch out your work beforehand? Say if it's
Never.
a larger painting, do you keep a
Oh, a
sketchbook at all?
larger painting. Okay. For the monotypes, I never ever do
Right.
anything in advance, not even
Right.
get an idea. I usually just go, stand there, and boom. For
Hmm.
painting, I will sometimes, like for the gestation piece, that one was planned.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the paintings are more planned. The catch and release piece, that big multimedia one, was not planned.
Hmm. Do you
So,
ever, in the bigger ones that you do plan, do you ever change the plan midway through, or do you see it?
oh yes, of course, no,
Yeah.
nothing,
Of course.
nothing I've ever done has turned out exactly how I planned it, which
Right.
is why I've mainly given up planning things. Because
Yeah.
what's the point, really?
Do you ever incorporate anything with dreams, with dreaming?
Yes, sometimes I do, but when I was younger, I used to dream so much that it would interfere with really with my functioning. So I, worked really hard to train myself not to dream. So I only dream very rarely now, and
Okay.
I allow those messages that I would have gotten in dreams to come out in the work.
True. So I'm curious about, one of the things I was attracted to in your work is the fact that you have these wonderful storylines within your work. And it's clear, from talking about the saint earlier, that you do use pre-existing stories, say biblical stories or religious or spiritual stories. But it also seems like you have your own stories that you're incorporating as well. Is is there a
Well,
like a verses, like, is there a
well,
percentage for one of the other?
I don't really use, so that St. Francis sculpture, I did a series of, I can't remember, I think like 8 or 9 sculptures of spiritual people who had really influenced me. So I had Meister Eckhart, I had all these different people. Um, and that kind of was the end. It was kind of like me processing what I had studied in school.
Oh,
And
okay.
now the um, the images and stories that come through, people do sometimes see, religious connections, but those aren't really coming from me. They're just, it's all kind of coming through me because I don't. So what will happen is I'll be working, all of a sudden a new symbol will pop in, and I will have no idea, literally no idea what the symbol means. And as I work over time, it will start to reveal. That's what I was talking about with the dreams. Like the messages come to me now from my subconscious through my work.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes the reason I don't understand what they mean is because I haven't integrated it from my subconscious into my conscious. And sometimes it's totally obvious to other people what it means, and I still don't get it.
Right. I love that when other people can point out what you're doing before you realize what you're doing.
Yes.
That's part of the fun of being an artist.
Yeah.
So over the time period, over your life, I have noticed that your work has changed. Like all artists, your work does change over time. And I'm curious, in that change, has it always been a gradual change, or have there ever been times where you just made complete breaks and did something completely different?
Um, There, mostly it's a gradual evolution, but during my 900-day project, I was uh, around day 700 and something. I got really, I was really feeling stuck, after 700 and something days of making a monotype every single day. And I don't know why, just the day I walked down, I made this really abstract piece. And so for about a month and a half, I made completely abstract pieces every single day. And then one day it just shifted back. And it was amazing. One of the things I learned in the 900 days is about completely having faith and trust in your own process, like not fighting that. Because then when I came back to my more common imagery, it was at a higher level, because I had allowed that abstract period to come through me without fighting it.
So I noticed on
And
your website that you do break things down into different series that you do. Obviously, there's the monotypes, but there are other series. Do you ever work on multiple series at the same time?
Oh, everything's at the same time because the trick with the studio is to keep the energy flowing.
Uh-huh.
Working on one piece and you get stuck, then you get in your head and you're stuck and you're like, you start thinking is the death of art, at least for me. And so I get stuck. Okay, I walk over to the next thing. And
Okay. So how many things are you juggling at the same time?
oh, I don't know. I mean, I have a dozen half made
Okay.
things. Some things sit around for years in partial states. Some things get made very quickly. I'll go back. It's not, it's about the process. It's not about the product for me. So I'm never thinking I have to get this done, or I'm thinking, what does this need? And I'm working.
Do you try to be in your studio every day?
Yes, I do try and be in my studio. I recently took a studio outside of my house. I have a studio in my house, which not only incorporates my studio, but has taken over almost the entire living room and also the dining room. So I got a studio outside of my house. So I'm working on that. But recently I did take a small break from working
Okay.
because I did a book about the 900 days of the monotype
Right, right. Yep,
project I
I
had
see it.
over
Uh-huh.
there. And that was a whole different side of the brain. And it was tremendous amount of work to get done and to get done really well.
Yeah,
So
it's wonderful. I'll need to grab a copy of that for my collection. So unfortunately, I've only got time for one more question. This went by super quick. Um, so it's a question that I ask all artists, but I love the answers. What does making art do for you?
it keeps me alive. I mean, I'm not even being metaphorical. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
literally saved my life when I was so sick. And it gives me a way to connect with other people. And, sometimes you think, you question what your, whether your purpose is important or not, but you have to have faith in whatever your purpose is. And this is my purpose. So I just throw myself into it and give it out to the world. And that's what I mean, it's me.
Yeah.
What is art to me? It's just me. That's
It is me. That's a slogan on a t-shirt. It's me. So that's perfect. Well, Sybil, thank you very much for coming and talking to me today. I really appreciate it. I love the insights that allows me to shift my understanding of an artist's work, and you've definitely provided that to me today. So thank
Well,
you
thank you
very,
so
very
much
much.
for having me.
It was a great pleasure. Also want to thank everybody who tuned in to watch today. We really appreciate it. Of course, we love it when you like, share, and subscribe. But if you have any questions or comments, we love to hear people's comments about ArtShow. You can put it right in the comments section right below the video. So we really appreciate everybody who is out there supporting us. Thank you very much. And again, Sybil, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.